marginalized, they were ghettoized. And there's also a mentality that goes with that. So I think, unfortunately, in Europe, you've had a lot of social problems that we don't have in the United States. Okay. The immigrant community to the United States, the Muslim immigrant community, is one of the most successful communities in the history of American immigration. And I think part of this pushback right now is very consistent with immigration patterns in American history. Americans have always been provincial about a new group that comes into America and have made it very difficult for them to become part of the American tapestry. So I think in some ways this is kind of an initiation into welcome to America.
John in D.C. is with us. John, go ahead.
Yes, people need to realize that in America, politics on the right is based on hatred. To get people to follow you, you must have an issue that they all can agree to hate. And Muslims are the latest victims of that. And also the 2.5% give back of the Muslim religion is much feared by the wealthy in America.
Okay, John, thank you for that. I'm going to add to what you're saying there with a comment about U.S. Congressman Peter King, who, as you know, Sheikh Hamza is behind the controversial move to investigate what he believes to be the radicalization of American Muslims. Now, I want to have our viewers and yourself listen to what he said about the reasons for these hearings before the House Homeland Security Committee.
The main purpose of this hearing also is to protect the Muslim community. I will have Muslims testifying tomorrow showing how they're intimidated in their own communities, how Al-Qaeda is radicalizing, and when they go to their leaders in the community, the leaders tell them to keep quiet. The leaders attempt to obstruct investigations.
What do you see coming out of these hearings, Sheikh Hamza?
Well, I think the previous caller made a good comment. The far right in the country, and I don't want to lump all the right together. There's people like Benjamin Weicker out there who are real conservatives that I actually respect, and so it's for me. I don't want to get into the melodramatic attitude of pure evil and pure good here. The left is good, the right is bad. I think in the secular left you'll find people that really hate Islam as well. In terms of King's hearings right now, we have a problem in the United States, undeniably. We've seen what they call homegrown terrorism. Some of it has been entrapment, undoubtedly, but unfortunately we had a lot of these people are individuals or a few people acting. They're not in a true sense of the definition that the State Department gives of terrorism. These are individuals acting out. I mean, we had a man that flew into an IRS building with his airplane, and that was not considered a terrorist act, even though he was protesting the high taxes in the United States and was influenced by a certain political ideology. On the other hand, somebody asked Bill Maher if his name was, or Bill Maher asked somebody if his name was Muhammad, would it be terrorism? And everybody kind of went silent. So I think anything that Muslims do right now, it's not seen as a lone nutcase. If the man in Arizona had been a Muslim, it would have been an act of terrorism, but instead it's looked at as a kind of isolated insanity. One of the things Nietzsche said that insanity is unusual in individuals, but it's common in groups. And so unfortunately we do have these small groups that behave in an insane manner, and instead of dealing with them and addressing the issues as a type of anomaly, I think the right is trying to lump these small groups of disenfranchised, very angry, hateful people into the greater Islamic community, and that is unjust. I find that deeply troubling. You cannot lump these people into the Islamic community. Okay. We have probably around 50,000 Muslim doctors in the United States that are treating people. People are putting their lives on the line with these doctors and trusting them, and this is going on every single day in the United States. Now, and people need to remember that.
Now, just a day ago, there was an article in the Washington Post by Asra Nomani, a Muslim academic and writer, who says that perhaps the King hearings are a good thing because she feels there is radicalization in the U.S. Muslim community and that it's about time it's explored and revealed. Now, I wonder what validity there is, in your opinion, of this idea of talking openly about this, perhaps just getting it all out in the open, and perhaps these hearings could produce something positive.
Well, I think there is some radicalization. There certainly, we had some of the East African community in the United States that were immigrants that went back to Somalia and ended up involved in whatever was going on over there. There's been plots that have been foiled, undeniably. But again, these are individuals or small groups that do not reflect the overall Muslim community. And I think the problem with highlighting and focusing on these, instead of seeing them as just criminality that needs to be prevented, and by politicizing them, you end up creating this sense that, oh, my next door neighbor's a terrorist, Ghulam or Ahmed or Abdullah down the road, and you see a Muslim in a scarf and suddenly fear is created. I think that's where I have a deep problem with what's going on, because it demonizes a group. And the definition of enfranchisement is when the whole group is not blamed for the actions of individuals. When an individual does something in the United States who happens to be a Muslim, the entire community is still affected by that. And until that changes, I think people need to have more responsibility and an awareness that they have a civil duty not to create these types of scare tactics. And one really important point is this has immense impact on America's image abroad in the Muslim world. This country has profound interests in the Muslim world. We are still dependent on foreign oil, and there are powerful ties to the Muslim world. And if you demonize the Muslims, not only does it make it acceptable to, say, attack a place like Iran, which I'm deeply troubled by that possibility, but because innocent people end up being terrorized over there. And that's another problem, because that creates more extremism. So I think it's really important to remember that there are international implications to what's going on.
I'm going to squeeze in a call from Somalia. Wesley, thanks for being with us. Go ahead, Wesley.
I didn't mean to offend Somalia.
Yes,
Go ahead.
my question is, I've heard so many times a discussion about Islamophobia in the United States. Will it not be fair to also have a discussion about the way minorities and Christians are being treated from Pakistan to the Middle East?
Sheikh Hamza?
In the Middle East?
I guess, yeah. If you take.
Are you saying the mistreatment?
I think that's the
the mistreatment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this is a common. I think this is very common amongst Muslims. Is that we do have a double standard. We kind of attack the West, but we tend to ignore the very serious problems in our own countries, in Muslim majority countries. So I think he's bringing up a very good point. I personally am horrified by a lot of the attitudes towards South Asians in certain areas in the Middle East. Undeniably, the way that Filipino maids have been treated, the way that workers are treated in some of the countries is deeply troubling. So, yeah, I think that we need to get out of a tribal mentality. We need to get out of tribalism and really address issues as right and wrong issues. And I think if we use a rational basis for doing